I'd like to just use this opportunity to welcome Marnus with us. Marnus is the co-founder of a platform called WorkOwl, which we're going to be chatting about in a second. But maybe, Marnus, before we kick off, maybe you can just share with us where exactly are you at the moment?
Well, I'm in my study in Cape Town. We live here in Cape Town, so yeah, I'm sitting and chatting here, and thanks for the opportunity of having me here.
Great stuff. I know, Marnus, you and I have actually been chatting before about the topics that we're wanting to actually touch on today. Sorry, I just want to make sure on my side that the actual platform is working. So I'm just going to go onto my phone here.
Okay.
Just to make sure that we're all good to go here. All right, so let's just have a look here quickly. All right, perfect. So we are, just want to turn the volume off here. Fantastic. All right, so Marnus, just maybe just for those who haven't been exposed to you, maybe you can just give us a little bit of background as to what it is that you currently are keeping yourself busy with.
Okay. So last 8 months or 8 months ago, I've decided to embrace the gig economy. So I'm currently a freelance project manager and a consultant on Sage X3 People. I've got some projects that I'm consulting on here, and then obviously I'm also the founder of WorkOwl. Apart from that, I'm happily married to an awesome wife. And we're the proud owners of 2 very cool terrorists, one 3-year-old daughter, and we've got a 1-year-old boy.
Awesome. So you said you're proud owners. I think they own you. Huh? That's how it works.
That's true.
Yeah, awesome. So I wanted to. And what are you busy studying at the moment, Marnus?
I'm busy completing my MBA. We're actually in our final year now, so we've completed all our academic subjects. We're doing our international study module in October, and then I'm doing my electives in November. And my topic of my thesis is actually around the future of work and busy validating a business model from a startup perspective. And I'm actually using WorkOwl to go and chat to companies and see what they think about the platform and how they experience the future of work and the challenges they face on it.
So maybe that's where we should get this discussion going. We will talk about WorkOwl in a second, but I want to ask you, just from your studies and from your research, talk to me a little bit about the future of work and the whole, employee model. How do you see that playing out in the next couple of years?
I think there's 2 things that comes to mind to me. The one is, we spoke about it previously as well, is I think job titles are going to disappear. I think we're going to be working much more on a project-based type of work, where companies internally will post a project that they need. For instance, they could have a digital transformation project, and certain people in the company with the core skills that could execute that project or from part of the team, but also people that has a passion for that and has that learns that on their own time will also be able to apply to work on those projects in a collaborative environment. I think for me that's an awesome opportunity to unleash the potential of employees by actually allowing them to work on projects and on stuff that they care about and that they are interested in. I think it's amazing what you would be able to get from that.
So what you're saying is that internally, instead of people having a job description and when they arrive at work fulfilling that particular function, you think what's going to happen, and I think it's already happening in some places, that employees will be given the opportunity to work on any project that the company has that they're wanting to actually roll out. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, and I think tomorrow's high-performing companies will also be a mixture of internal talent pools and external talent pools, where they collaborate and connect and execute on project-type work. So I think it's going to be a combination of the two. But yeah, I think you're not going to be molded into a job title anymore. So you're accountant, now you can't do anything in marketing, or you can't work on that project because this is your job title and this is the guidelines that you need to work in. I think it's going to be much more project-based type of work.
So I know. We've actually spoken about this before, but maybe this lends itself to the discussion. Stanford had a research thing that they did, which they called. Sure, let me just get this terminology now. That's just slipped my mind now. They called it flash teams, right? So instead of having people that are employed by the company to solve a particular problem or to roll out a project, what they do is they collect a team of experts to actually come in on the project and help them, solve the problem, whatever it is. And then when that is done, that team dissolves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you seeing that kind of thing will happen a lot more in future?
Yes, definitely. I definitely think so. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about when you talk about the gig economy, what does that mean in essence for those who've perhaps never heard of that terminology, the gig economy? What is that?
For me, the gig economy is basically you're a freelancer, you work for yourself, and you work on gigs or shorter term projects. So you'll do one gig or one project for a company, or you can do multiple gigs or multiple projects for multiple companies. So essentially, you're an independent consultant or a freelancer. And the word gig it comes from project or a small type of project or gig work that you do.
So some research that's coming out of the more advanced economies, like in the US and Europe, etc. They're saying that large percentages of people who are participating in the economy, in the formal economy, are going to be working as in the gig economy or as freelancers.
Absolutely.
When do you see that thing sort of arriving in South Africa in big steam? Do you think?
I think we're still in the very early stages, but you can definitely start to see on certain projects and in certain companies, they are starting to embrace that. I think we are still a few years away where it will be totally embraced. For instance, in the United States, they say that close to 40 or 50% of the workforce by 2020 will be independent or contract workers. And if you also look at the stats, I think from 2005 to 2013, the amount of gig workers jumped by almost 70%. I think it will be sooner than what we usually have that thinking of, yes, this happens now in America and it will only happen 5 or 6 or 7 years down the line in South Africa. And I think one big driver of that is technology and how fast technology is changing and how fast the needs of employees and businesses is changing. So that gap between what's happening in a developed world and an emerging world, that period is going to become much more smaller. So I think we're still in the early stages of that, but it's going to come at an exponential pace. It's not going to come in a linear fashion to us.
That's the one thing that I think sometimes, people that work in an economy like in the South African environment, which maybe is not considered as advanced as the European or the American is. But what often happens in these economies is that these economies leapfrog situations, right? So for example, in Africa, the idea of a fixed line telephone network is gone, right? I mean, what's basically happened is we've leapfrogged straight into mobile connection, and that's the way people will connect to the internet. That they would have never experienced this whole thing about a fixed line network. And I think that's actually what is going to happen from a work environment as well. So talk to me a little bit about what will need to happen inside organizations for them to be able to function in a gig economy, or an economy that has been driven by freelancers and that kind of thing? What needs to happen inside a business for that to happen, for them to be able to participate in that kind of environment?
I think companies need to start asking themselves questions in terms of what their future industry is going to look like, what the future of work is going to be in their environment, and what the future of their specific employees is going to be. And they need to ask themselves what is the new industry, or because we've seen disruption everywhere, and try to understand how talent is going to play a role within that environment, and become accustomed to the idea that these teams will probably be formed part between internal and external talent pool. So I think the first thing that they need to do is just to start asking questions about it, about their future employee, about the future of work, and how is that going to impact them. And especially from a competitive advantage point of view, what we're seeing is the more and more businesses are reporting the challenge that they currently experience to access and retain skilled talent. And it's just going to become so much more difficult in the future, where they can't necessarily afford the best talent because they're asking a massive salary. So for them to remain competitive in the new way of working, they're going to need to start asking themselves these type of questions.
So you know, what many South African businesses, especially in the work that we do, don't quite understand is that what's happened is technology has unshackled the employee from an office and a desk. Okay, so you know, in the gig economy, so maybe you can just describe this from what you're seeing as well. In the gig economy, you know, freelancers, etc., do they have to come in and sit at the offices of a company that's using their services, or how's it working?
I think the one flaw I have with the way businesses and this, or how they see productivity, is exactly what you're saying now. Is they think an employee is productive if he sits at the office and he sits in front of his computer. I mean, that's not productivity. Rather, they need to start measuring the outcomes that specific employee is producing, whether they are a freelance worker or whether they're independent worker or an employee of the company. In my case, for instance, I go to the office and I consulted the client. So for me, it's not an issue to go there. And if I work the day at home, there's no issue on that. So I think it's more the notion of companies need to reassess how they measure productivity and rather measure the outcomes. So if a worker is working remotely but is producing the goods, what's fault in that?
So let me tell you something interesting. Actually, this was last year sometime. I did an interview with one of South Africa's leading WordPress outfits. Right, they're web developers, but very focused on WordPress, and they're based in Cape Town. The company's called Lightspeed. And Ashley was actually telling me, who heads up that company, who owns the company. He was saying that he can't hire some of South Africa's top developers who are living there in Cape Town, because these guys are actually working for European and American organizations, outfits. However, they are based in Cape Town. So himself, you know, he had, I think if I remember correctly in the interview, he had someone on his team who was based in Spain, and another guy who's based in Brazil, and the rest of the guys in Cape Town. But the interesting thing is that this whole team of people were a dispersed team, and you know they were working across time zones, which in some instances is very valuable to do, because you know work can actually be done around 24 hours, for example. So I must tell you that my view is that organizations are going to have to get their heads around how they can have, for the lack of a better word, call them a digital employee who is not necessarily in your geographic location or within a 10-kilometer or a 15 or 20-kilometer radius of your traditional office, right? Do you see that's going to become a big need going forward, especially if you want to have the skills that you were talking about in your organization?
I definitely think so. Definitely, and they're going to need to adapt that way of working, because that's the only way that they're going to have access to these talents. So if that talent decides that is how I work, I sit in Bali and I work there for 6 months, and if you want to use my service, you can use my service, but it's going to be remote work. I mean, they're not going to really have a choice in that. So I really think it's going to become the norm, and I think leaders just need to shift the way of their thinking of how they should manage employees. I mean, you can manage remote workers. You can use these technologies like we're doing the interview now to have your meetings. You can have digital work platforms like WorkOwl where you can track all your projects. You can see all the communication that's going on between the different stakeholders involved in your project. I just think they need to let go of that notion that you need to be physically present to be a productive employee.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a couple of people have joined us here live, so I just want to say hello to Susan and Mark. Mark Sham is actually in the US at the moment, and I see Mickey's joined us from New Zealand. I see Clive Zolberg is with us, and Lisa as well. Mickey makes the comment that she loves the idea of being paid for results and producing those results from anywhere and any time of day. Absolutely, that is the future, right? Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about WorkOwl. What exactly is WorkOwl?
Okay. So we touched on why we're doing it. So essentially what WorkOwl is we providing companies with the opportunity to change the way they get work done. We've developed a platform where they can access independent knowledge workers and flexible talent for their project-based work. And you can basically think of us as the human cloud for professional and knowledge workers. So what will happen is both a business and a consultant, they will create a profile for free on our platform. A business will then go ahead and create a project, his deliverables, his milestones, what he wants out of the project, and he posts the project. Our algorithm will then match the needs of that project and the business to on the consultant that has its specific needs. They both then can view each other's profile and work history and the ratings on the platform, negotiate who they want on the team or on the project, appoint them. Once that's done, both companies sign the project agreement that basically states what is the deliverables and the milestones and the expectations both parties have on it. The business will then transfer, if it's a smaller project, they'll transfer the amount into our trust account, or if it's a milestone-based payment, they'll pay the first milestone into our trust account. And then they will get access to the digital platform where they can draw in other team members that forms part of the project, and they connect, collaborate, and succeed. After the project is done, both parties review each other. We've got a rating system in there. And once the business is actually happy with the outcome or results of the project, only then will we release the funds to the consultant. We've also got a dispute management module in, so at any time, either a consultant or a business can log a dispute if they're not happy on where the project is going or what's the current outcomes of it. And we're busy discussing and partnering up with the independent law firm that will handle all the mediation and dispute management for us. So it's total independent mediation process outside of WorkOwl.
Wow, this is pretty fascinating. So I want to ask you, if you think of what you guys have created with WorkOwl, what is that disrupting at the moment, would you say?
I've been trying to answer that question myself as well. The challenge I'm having is disruption always happens at the ends of an industry. So it's not in the industry itself. So if I had to look at industries that we are disrupting, it's obviously the consulting industry, because we're unbundling the traditional consulting model and we're getting away with all that overheads and fixed costs that the big consulting firms do charge. And on the other end, you've got the recruitment industry. So if you can think about it on a scale, on the left, you've got these temp agencies or recruitment industry or agencies. On the right-hand side, you've got the big high consulting firms. And I think we somewhere in the middle. And because we also have this digital platform that you can do your work on, a project on, we are in the tech industry as well. So it's a mold of different industries that we basically causing disruption.
This is very exciting because to me it's an example of what technology is enabling people to do, right? I mean, what you've basically done is created a platform that brings together a business and expertise in a place where it's easy for them to actually work on a project, be able to track it like a management tool almost, and also to enable a talent who is basically based everywhere in South Africa now, to actually be able to participate in the economy. I must tell you this. I mean, you are obviously not, the first platform that's done this. I mean, Udemy is very, very similar to this, but this is a unique South African platform. I know that a lot of South African businesses often, when they want to participate on something like Udemy, the fact that they're dealing with people that are living, in other countries can seem intimidating. But here, what you have is a platform for local businesses, local consultants to be able to actually interact with each other. Yeah. That's pretty brilliant. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, and our niche is the professional service and knowledge workers. Whereas a platform like Udemy, you can get skills from A to Z. We are focused on that core professional services and knowledge worker industry.
Okay, great. So that's good to know. So Susan just said here that she agrees management style has to change and evolve with technology. So I must tell you, from our side, if I look at the data on the back end of what we do, so, as you probably know, we share a lot of information about how technology is changing the workforce, is enabling people to not necessarily sit in traffic to get to work. It's enabling talent to come into an organization from anywhere. Sometimes what companies have done is they've lost talent because, for example, someone has had to relocate to another city, for example. And now they say, oh, well, because this person is relocating, we will have to now find someone else to take their job. But if they have a digital workplace, it means that this person can move to Cape Town or move to Bali or move anywhere and still remain inside the organization, and the organization still retains their skill. So look, one thing is for sure, and this is why I always enjoy chatting to you, Marnus. I think that you guys have built a really special platform, and it's an example of what a digital workplace looks like, right? So, if we have a look at the stuff that we talk about, digital workplaces include environments where teams can collaborate with each other. But now your piece of the puzzle is this piece where a company can actually bring in expertise from outside the organization to help them on a short-term basis with what they need to do. And this is the future of work. I honestly believe this. I think you will agree with me, but organizations are going to have to get their heads around how to work with virtual and digital employees and expertise, which is actually available from anywhere.
Yeah, and just imagine that fresh thinking and innovation that can come from these employees that, in the traditional sense of the employee-employee relation, that they won't have access to. Now they get the collective intelligence of an online world that they can tap into for their business needs, and they can either scale up or down in terms of the employment level based on their project needs. I think it's massive opportunities for businesses.
So if I look at this and just tell me if you agree with this. So there's massive advantage for people to actually get more work-life balance and the freedom of being, I'm talking about individuals now, the freedom of being able to work from anywhere, and work according to your strengths and to how you work, right? We've reached a world where that is now possible for individuals. For companies, there's huge advantage as well, because, you know, traditionally what you would need to do if you were trying to solve something is you would have to employ people. And we know what kind of headache comes with that scenario, right? Whereas now for organizations, there's this flexibility that you have a problem to solve, you bring people to help you solve that problem, and then that team dissolves, right?
And just think about what it does for the engagement level of employees as well. Let's just speak from an internal employee perspective. They can actually do work and do something that they are passionate about. That engagement level, I think all of this research says that overall globally, 87% of employees are disengaged. Just imagine what this type of project-based work can do for the engagement level for employees. If they can work remote, if they can work their own hours, and they still produce the outcome that the job requires, I think that could increase the engagement level massively.
So talk to me just very briefly, Marnus. So WorkOwl can be used internally in an organization, right?
Yeah.
So how would that work internally?
So a company would still create their own profile, their business profile, okay, and then they will create their project. They'll have the opportunity to either post the project to the marketplace or post the project internally. And then all of the employees will need to register a profile on that, and they can see sort of like an intranet where they can see what projects are available and can apply for the projects, and then it follows the same course as a normal external project-based work.
Fascinating stuff. So listen, it's hard to believe, but this half hour just like shot by like this. And, you know, these concepts I think are very important for South African businesses to get their heads around. I want to tell you, it is my honest belief that the South African businesses that re-engineer their workplaces in order to be able to work in this new, fast-paced, agile, technology-rich environment, what's going to happen is they are definitely going to have the competitive advantage. There's no question. So you know, I have a question for you. If people want to find out more about WorkOwl and the stuff that you guys are actually busy with at the moment, where is the best place to do that, would you say?
They can go to our website, www.workowl.co. Or they can follow us on Facebook. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. So they connect with us on any one of those platforms.
So Marnus, I want to ask you a favor. When we're done with the call, with our chat here, I would like you to, just in the comments, if you could pop the links in to all these places that you mentioned, so that, you know, the audience that's watching the program, and obviously will watch again the replay. And I just want to say to everybody that is watching the replay, welcome to you all. We know that sometimes it's not possible to catch these live, but you know, this broadcast will remain on my Facebook profile, and we also upload this to the Future Work IQ Vimeo channel. So it is live there, and you know, people can actually connect to that. But if you will go into the comments and just drop the links to all these places, so that, you know, if people want to reach out to you guys and have a chat to you about this amazing platform that you've built and sort of the ideas around this, they can do so like that. So listen, it's been really great chatting to you. I have one question for you in parting. If you had to sit, if you had to be standing right now in front of a group of people, let's use executives first, and then I'm going to go through to people who are wanting to enter the gig economy, etc. If you had to be standing in front of a group of executives, what is the one piece of advice you would give them that you think would make a massive difference as to their businesses as we race towards 2020?
I think the other day I saw a cool quote. They talk about IQ, EQ, and there's another one that I didn't know existed. It's called AQ, which is your adaptability quotient. And I really think executives, especially the older people, they were used to how things work for a very long period in time. And I think we're in a point in time that your IQ is going to become much as important or even more important than your EQ. And what that basically means is you need to be able to unlearn how you have been doing things and be able to relearn yourself for the future of work. Because I think the future of work and the future of business that we are moving into is going to require a totally new, different type of mindset and a way of thinking. And the only way that you are going to be comfortable in that environment is to be able to unlearn yourself and relearn yourself, and also to be comfortable with the unknown. I think that is going to be very important.
Awesome. I see Lisa's just made a comment here. She says employees are way more productive and valuable if they're allowed to work according to their natural rhythms and energy levels during the day. For example, some individuals are early birds, really productive in the morning, and others late during the evening. If the workplace model pays for results, everybody wins. Would you agree with that?
100%.
So, what would you say to a group? What would you say to employees if you had to speak to employees, a group of employees? What piece of advice would you give them?
I would also say, if you look at the broader topics of the future of work, you've got AI, you've got robotics, and there's a lot of talk about how machines will replace jobs. I think a very important thing for employees is to be continuous learners. They need to continuously upskill themselves, be continuously learning new things. I saw the other day that they actually say that the skills that we have today is going to become irrelevant in 5 years' time. So I think it's very important for them, if they are to remain competitive in the workspace environment, is to continuously keep learning new things.
Excellent. So Marnus, from my side, based on your observations, just from our observing what's happening and the trends that we watch, etc. There's two things I would highly recommend. One is having a strategy in place to build out a digital workplace as quickly as possible so that you can interface very easily with the rapidly expanding digital economy. And then, to develop the skill set that's required to work inside a digital workplace. So we're talking about digital literacy, we're talking about digital fluency. If you can't work in a remote environment, for example, if you can't communicate and collaborate in those kind of spaces, and you have to be able to see a person face to face, it's going to become quite challenging for you to be able to work in a space that's rapidly changing, right? Absolutely.
I agree.
So listen, this has been a really great chat. Thank you so much for taking your time out. And I know we had some fun getting this broadcast up and running, but here we are. We demonstrated our digital literacy and fluency at breakneck speed, so that's been really great. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens to WorkOwl, Marnus. And what I will do is definitely make a plan to have you back on with us to chat about these concepts, because I really do believe this is something that South African businesses need to get their heads around. So thank you very much.
Thank you for you, and thank you for the opportunity to chat again.
So